Shalom, shalom, Israel. This is your brother Yatazamak from W5 Jersey, Philly, coming back with a quick video. Lord willing, everyone's doing good through the Spirit. You continue in this truth. You're striving to be a part of the ministry and also to partake in the glory that comes from being a part of the ministry, which is the kingdom of the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man. Greetings to you all. Lord willing, everyone is still maintaining the Spirit and they're pushing forward in this thing, man. But we're going to come with a quick video, through the Spirit, to help Israel and those that partake in the ministry, help them to maneuver in this truth, man. Just putting the basic picture out there, man. Our people, are fresh out the world. They're fresh out of sin. They're fresh out doing whatever the hell they want to do. They're fresh out moving in their own way, moving in their own eyes, moving in their own heart. And these things, these tendencies, they tend to come back in the truth, man. Or Israel tends to never shake it off neither. You got people in the truth, they move with their own heart. They say whatever comes out their mouth. They move in their own mindset. They overthrow other men, overthrow other people. They overthrow themselves and they profane the ministry, man. They don't know how to maneuver. So the theme of this video is going to be on selflessness, man. Because a lot of Israel, we lack that, man. We lack selflessness. We lack the ability to realize this isn't about us. At the end of the day, the church, the ministry, and all these things, all these things pertaining to Yahweh Shem Yahushai, they outrank us, man, or should outrank us in our own minds. But to a lot of men, and women in Israel, that's a stumbling block, man. So we're going to get straight into it. Let's get classic. This book of Matthew, chapter 16. I'm going to start with verse 24. Matthew chapter 15 and verse 24. And Salaki, I might start with verse 23. 23, because this is a heavy account too. It goes into what we're going into. Verse 23. But he turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me. For thou savorest not the things that be of Yahweh, but those that be of men. And again, these are tendencies that Israel, we took from the world, from the wicked world. Things that tend to be savoring to men, that men tend to enjoy. That's what we were drawing in at one point, man. This truth, as Yahushua just said, it doesn't mix with the things that be of men. It doesn't mix with your own lust, your own vain thoughts. I want to do what I want to do. I'm going to do me. Those things, they don't mix with the things that be of Yahweh. When you understand how the Lord works, the Lord, he's calling for Israel to be very selfless in these last days. Very selfless. Why? Because Israel, we got astray, man. We're lost. We're people that fell from grace, man. And the last thing we need on our plate is to be prideful and think that we're something when we're really not. And that's a very big theme, throughout, the so-called New Testament. With the coming back, with the coming of Yahweh Shai in the flesh, and being presented unto Israel, he was the exact picture, the picture representation for that, man. A selfless man that could have been puffed up and proud and saying whatever he wanted to say, but at the end of the day, he was selfless, man. And we had to follow that same layout that he laid out for us and be in that same manner in this ministry. But let's keep reading. Verse 24, here's the point. Then Yahweh said unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Now the Lord said, when you come to follow Yahweh Shai, when you come to be a partaker of this ministry that the Lord set up, you have to deny yourself. That's a heavy statement that a lot of men, a lot of women, they pass over. When they say deny themselves, that sounds cool. Man, I got to deny myself the weed and talking to all these women and the constant drinking and going out to the party. I got that down pat. No, the denying yourself is deeper than that, man. It's deeper than that. The denying yourself it gets heavy. And a lot of men, again, they tend to kind of put a blind eye to it. Kind of put a blind eye to it when the Lord's calling you to actually deny yourself. Not denying a blunt handed to you by Ray on the block after you walk by down the block to go to the grocery store. Denying yourself, it talks about giving your soul and your life to this ministry, man. Putting your standards and your thoughts at many times below and uprising another person's standards, man. Uprising another person's thoughts in a righteous manner, man. That's what this ministry is about, man. And we're going to touch into certain accounts where you can see that, where men were literally giving up their lives for the ministry, man. They would rather die than to offend one of the little ones. They would rather die than to place a stumbling block in front of another brother, in front of a sister. And that spirit is lacking in Israel, man. And we got called out. We have to. That spirit can lack at times. Again, a lot of Israel were coming back from the world. And we're coming back. And we're entering into this truth. And these worldly tendencies, they tend to cling on. In the world, you move by the beat of your own heart. Whatever you had in your eye, that you saw in your eyes, you went for it, man. With no holding back. These things, they don't belong in the truth. Your way isn't always the way. It's not your way or the highway. It's the Lord's way or the highway. And the Lord tells us how to maneuver. But let's read this one more time. Then said Yahweh unto the disciples, if any man come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it. And whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. So the Lord said we have to lose our life for his sake. What does that entail? That entails many things, man, that are written throughout the book on how the Lord wants his ministers and his servants to move, man. The denying yourself and losing your life, again, it's not just talking about losing the night scene you used to have, man. The friends I used to roll with and the people you used to talk to. And, you're denying their cause and you're like, yeah, I did, Lord. No, the denying and losing your life, it gets deeper than that, man. You got to remember, Yahweh literally gave up his life for the church. Literally, physically. That's what this is about, man. So we got to dive into these accounts and see some things, man. Let's go to a classic. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 8 and verse 1. Get some accounts of this, man. Because it gets deep. And you got to ask yourself, are you really doing this, man? 2 Corinthians chapter 8 and verse 1. Moreover, brethren, we do you to wit of the grace of Yahweh, bestowed on the churches of Macedonia, how that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded unto the riches of their liberality. Meaning that these people, they were going through it. But what happened? They didn't say, I'm throwing the towel. I'm not there for my brethren anymore. I'm going through it. I'm poor. I'm afflicted. And let me not show my face for 4 weeks till I get over what I got going on. You got people that do that, man. They go through a little something and you can't even reach out to them for 4 weeks. Then they come back like, yeah, I was going through it, man. Well, why didn't you say nothing? You had people that could have helped you. You had a ministry that needed your help too. If you're going through something, you can't just disappear, man. If you're going through something, you can't say, well, I'm going through it. I can't join this. I can't do the works of the Lord. Man, my pocket's a little thin. I can't go out and help the people of God. I gotta help myself first. What type of servant are you, man? Just being honestly speaking. What type of servant are you if you're making all these excuses when you have people in the church of Macedonia that through a great trial of affliction, I'm going to read the last part. It says, the deep poverty abounded unto the riches of the liberality. Meaning when they were going through certain things, they got richer and stronger in the faith and the liberality. and understanding who Yahweh Shah was, his ministry. They abounded in those things. They ain't let the world hold them back. They ain't let poverty and affliction take them away from doing his ministry. They abounded. These are examples of losing your life for the Lord's sake and denying yourself. It's very easy to get carnal and say, well, man, I'm going through it. I got to focus on me. It's very carnal and easy to do that. Why? Because that's your flesh talking. That's the old man talking. In the world, if that was happening, you would have put your head down and you'll be gone for 3 months, and grind back up. But in the truth, you can't do that, man. In the truth, you have to give yourself up. You gave yourself up for this ministry. It's not about you all the time, brother. It's not what you want to do all the time, sister. It's what the Lord needs to get done, man. So let's keep reading an account of what men did, what men did what the Lord had them or need them to do, man. No matter what they were going through. Let's keep reading. It says, for to their power I bear record, yea, and beyond their power. They were willing of themselves, praying us with much entreaty that we would receive the gift and take upon us the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. So to their own power, man, even beyond their power, the power of the Most High, the Spirit of the Lord sing upon these people. They want to partake more and more in the fellowship of the ministering of the saints. That's a heavy thing right there, man. That's heavy. These men were going through it, and what did they want to do? They wanted to do the ministry more. They wanted to get the work done more. You got to ask yourself, are you in that same mindset, man? Are you the brother that, again, whenever something bad happens, you can never reach that brother? Whenever someone needs you, you're too worried about yourself. Oh, man, it's date night right now. The brother called me, let me press that big red button. And you just ignore that brother that needed you, that needed a precept. He might be about to fall off the truth. And you press the big red button and you say it's date night. He can wait. What type of brother are you, man? Again, we got to check ourselves because you got a lot of men that aren't moving with the love that these men have for the church and the ministry. Inside the ministry today, man, which is off. So we got to check ourselves. Let's keep reading. It says, and this they did, not as we hoped, but first gave their own selves to the Lord and unto us by the will of Yahweh. And they gave themselves up to the Lord, man. And giving yourself up to the Lord, that's not a light or just a title you can place upon anybody that got fringes on, man. You just got someone, they walk by with fringes, but they goddamn black him out of the pocket. Oh, yeah, he gave himself to the Lord. Why you got to black him out, tucked underneath his fringes, man? That's not giving yourself to the Lord, only wearing fringes, man. Giving yourself to the Lord, it's deeper than that, man. It's partaking in this ministry and not giving heed to your own desires, man. Not giving heed to what is it Taz am I going to do? What does Kasadi want to do? What all these different what does he want to do? It's not about that, man. It's about giving yourself up for this ministry, giving yourself up for the church, man, giving yourself up to the Lord at the end of the day. And a lot of people, then that's what a lot of people fail at, man. Because they're still holding on to what they want to do. Walking in the sight of their own eyes and their own lust. And what they want to do. And this is a problem. We're going to get a couple more precepts on that. But this is a problem, throughout time, man. There's no new thing underneath the sun. We're going to get a couple of accounts of Paul. But Paul dealt with this problem, man. With men just overthrowing the church because they wanted to do what they wanted to do. But let's get another account. Let's go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. And then we'll get an account of what I was talking about before. But this is 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. 3. It says, for our exhortation was not of deceit, nor uncleanness, nor in guile. But as we were allowed of Yahweh to be put in trust with this gospel, even so we speak, not as pleasing men, but Yahweh which trieth our hearts. For neither at any time use we flattering words, as ye know, nor a cloak of covetousness. Yahweh is witness. So these men, they were pure of heart, man. They had no guile. They weren't in this for vain things. They weren't in this for a season, and then after a while, they start annoying their fellow brethren. They're not really there for their brethren. They talk a good talk. They say, yeah, I'm here for you, brother. Man, just hit me up whenever. But whenever you get hit up, or whenever a brother hits you, or whenever, that brother's nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. You know, he said, yeah, whatever. You call his phone 50 times. He never answers. These men, they were really about the life, man. If they said that they would die for a brother, they would actually die for a brother. If they said that, look, if you ever need me, knock on my door, whatever time of the night, those men, they will receive you, man. You know, Paul and the men he was rolling with. These men were actually about it. You know, Paul was very, very loving and zealous towards the church, man, and making sure that they were uprisen good and well rooted in the doctrine and in the faith of Yahweh Shah. You know, when he said something, he wasn't playing games. So Paul and the men he rolled with, they were without guile, man. Titus, Timothy, you know, all these different men, they were very zealous for the church. And very zealous for being selfless, you know, toward the church itself. And denying their own selves to what? Magnify Yahweh Shai and to magnify the ministry. Well, let's keep reading. It says, Slakia. Nor of men sought we glory, neither of you, nor yet of others, when we might have been burdensome as the apostles of a Mashiach. But we were gentle among you, even as a nurse cherisheth her children. And a lot of brothers, you know, they might say, well, man, what do you mean I gotta be a nurse to a brother? What do you mean I ain't that brother's mom. I ain't that brother's babysitter or nurse, any term you want to use. I'm not that. Man, that brother, he got it by his own. He's a grown man. What's he always call me for precepts for? You got a lot of brothers that move like that, which is off. You know, and you got a lot of people in Israel, they move like this. And we cannot do that. We have to be able to separate ourselves from those that are false apostles, like it says in Revelation, the 2nd chapter, and be able to separate ourselves into those that are the true apostles of the Most High, the true ministers, those that follow how the Lord set things up. And we read these accounts, and we see, you know, these men, they loved the church. They loved their people. They loved those that love Yahweh Shai. And he said that it was I'll read it one more time. It says, but we were gentle among you. Meaning Paul was gentle among those that were the church of Thessalonica. It says, but we were gentle among you, even as a nurse cherisheth her children. And Paul was on a high level. He could have easily came in there and just been prideful, you know, standoffish, kind of like, what you doing? Why are you talking to me? You know, I'm the top apostle. Why are you talking to me? But no, he was as a nurse that cherishes her children. And that's deep, man. That's deep. Because again, that's a very humble role to be in. To be a top man in the earth, but to be amongst other men and nourishing them like a child. Nourishing them and making sure that they're good. You know, when you're in this truth, you know, you got to do that, man. You have to. A lot of, again, people say, well, I don't want to do it. They throw up their hands. What do you mean I got to answer a brother's call at 2 o'clock? 2 a.m. in the morning. It's bedtime. I got work at 8 a.m. in the morning. Why are you calling me, Ak? What do you mean that you're feeling bad in the spirit? What do you mean? What do you mean all these things? No, brother, you got to say, well, hold up, Ak. You call me at 2 a.m., what's up, Ak? You want to go over some scripture, man? What you calling me for? I got you. Whatever you need. Brother calls you 7 times throughout the week. Man, he scratching his head, man. What's that one precept? Man, I forgot. What's that one precept? You gotta be the brother to answer that call, man. You have to. Otherwise, you won't be moving in the spirit that Paul and the other apostles were moving in. Let's keep reading. It says, so being affectionately desirous of you, we were willing to have imparted unto you not the gospel of God only, meaning that they weren't just out there preaching, giving people the words of God, rightfully dividing the words of truth among the church. They were doing more than that. It's more than just reading the Bible. Reading the Bible to people and getting on them. It's more than that. This actually requires dedication. There's a lot of examples of men that go out and just read the Bible. Your pastor, the damn Christian testimony speakers that are on the streets and all that, Jehovah's Witnesses, they go out and they read the same Bible. Now they're breaking down the word the same way? No. They're doing it wrong, but they're doing the same thing. It's not only just sharing the gospel of the Lord, but doing this also. Slucky. It says, we were willing to impart unto you not the gospel of God only, but also our own souls. So these men, they gave up their own souls. Not in a wicked way, but in a way that they were willing to lay down their life. And not physically, but spiritually, man. They gave all their time to the church. Again, a lot of people, they'll scratch your head and say, man, that sounds crazy. What do you mean they didn't do their own thing? They didn't have their alone time, their vacation, their this and that, and boom, boom, boom. And this was constant attendance to the church. What do you mean by that? You saying I have to do that too? And then, scratch your heads and they'll say, well, man, that's a lot. It is a lot. But that's what's required of us in this ministry, to be selfless. That's the big word, selfless. Which these men, they were the same way. They said we will impart our own souls unto you. Meaning that they were willing to just throw away the old life and give their life unto the ministry and the helping of the churches. That's heavy. Let's keep reading. Finish it out. It says, but also our own souls, because ye were dear unto us. And the people and the members of the ministry, they should be dear unto you. The members of Israel should be dear unto you. It shouldn't be a hard thing. Shouldn't have to be getting constrained to take care of the church, man. Shouldn't have to have a foot on your neck and 1,000 precepts brought out to want to help the church. It should be damn near instinctive. Instinct. It should be by nature you want to help the church, man. If you answer this call to this truth, I'll speak for myself. It should be in your nature to want to help people in this truth. If you were called by other means, you gotta check yourself. You really do, because if what called you in this truth was, man, I want to get famous. I see how they're on the videos and they're screaming at the white people. I want to do that too. Oh, I see how they're in uniform. I want to be in uniform too. I see how unified they look. I want to be unified. You're not gonna last long, man, because the Lord's gonna try your works. I'm gonna get that precept because I did quote it. The Lord's gonna try your works. He's gonna find you a false apostle, man. Don't be in this thing for vain things, vain things. You're in it because you thought that the shirts look cool. You thought, oh man, this is a movement. You thought it was a movement. A thing that's gonna last, for 2 months. Or the new thing, like the damn FBA and Egyptology and Dr. Umar. You thought it was just this new movement, and you got persuaded by that. You're not gonna last long, brother or sister. This is a little thing that requires a lot of dedication and your own soul, man. Literally. And a lot of men are not willing to give up their own soul. A lot. In a righteous man, they're not. They want to do their own thing and walk their own way and walk by the beat of their own drum. The beat of their own drum. No, we can't do that. And this truth, again, is you have to be selfless. But let's get this precept. Revelation 2 and verse 2. It says, I know thy works and thy labor and thy patience, and how thou canst not bear them which are evil. And thou hast tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and hast found them liars. So the Lord, in these days or in the days to come, in these days and the days to come, he's trying men's hearts. Men that call themselves apostles. Because again, a lot of men, they call themselves the servants of God, man. He's trying their souls and he's seeing, are you an apostle or not? And if you're not, he will find you as a liar. Because again, a lot of men, they can claim to be apostles. You got Christian pastors, you got the Christian denomination, you got these false, wicked priests. Slacking. You got these false, wicked priests that claim to be servants, and they're truly not, man. And even in the house of God, you have men that are doing that. And this is nothing new. This is of old, man. That there's gonna be men, that are gonna be within the ministry that aren't really of the ministry, man. If you want to have an account of that, read third John, man. 3 John is one chapter. You could be a Diotrephes, man. If I'm pronouncing it right, Lord willing. But Diotrephes, you could read about an account of him, a man that wasn't really in the ministry for spiritual things, for a good reason, but carnal things. Carnal. So we got to understand, that we can't be moving in that same spirit. Those that have ears to hear. So let's get another account. Let's get another account. In this book of Romans, I'm going to start at 15 and verse Salaki. I want to get straight to it. Or Salaki, Romans 14. This is book of Romans, chapter 14. I'm going to start at verse 21. I want to get straight to the point. I'll start with verse 21. Again, and this is to the point I had before, where this is a common thing that Paul dealt with, in the churches. Men that were overthrowing other men because of their own selfish reasons. Actually, let's go to a different precept, then we'll go to Romans 14. This is over and over again. This is over and over again. It was in the church of Corinth. It was in the church that was found in Rome. Or the saints, it was amongst the saints that were in Rome. These things is over and over. But let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And I'm going to start at verse... I want to get straight to the point, but I might have to go up a little bit. Yeah, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse, I might have to get the first, verse 3. And let's start at verse 3. 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 3. For ye are yet carnal, for whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions. Now, if you understand what's going on in this chapter or this context, you have men that were secting and dividing amongst each other and calling themselves after different names. The names that they were calling themselves were the names of the men that brought them in the truth. Like Paul, Barnabas, they said Cephas, which would be Peter. You have men that were dividing themselves over that and being selfish and overthrowing others because, that's what I want to call myself. That's what I want to do. Oh, this is who I am. If you're not of me, you're done for. And these things that happen, man. They happen right now and today, man. Got a lot of men that are carnally dividing each other, dividing one another in Israel, man. Well, if you don't wear these type of fringes, you're not gonna make it. If you don't call yourself a part of this camp, you're not gonna make it. Well, if you don't do this, you're not gonna make it. Well, brother, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? You're making now. You're just doing too much, and it always comes down to a selfish reason. Well, this is what I believe in. Well, this is what my congregation says. Oh, well, brother, what does the Lord say? These problems, they happen in before times, and there's nothing new underneath the sun that's happening right now. Let's read this. 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 3. For ye are yet carnal, for whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are you not carnal and walk as men? And Paul called them out. He said, you walking as men. Again, this thing, the things that they were dealing with, we deal with the same thing. We are the Gentiles. We're the same people that Paul was going to. Going through the same things. The Lord, the Lord said that they're walking carnal and as men, which is the same things that happen right now. It says, for while one saith, I am of Paul, and another, I am of Apollos, are ye not carnal? And he called them out. He said, why are you saying, one of you are saying you're of Paul, and another one of you, you're saying of Apollos? And to the point where there's envying and strife, and there's an overthrow in the whole church. Because of what? Selfishness, man. And not being selfless, man. And Paul, what did Paul do? He got on them and had to correct it. And we're going to read about the correction. And Paul taught them, you got to be more selfless, man. Those things, they don't really matter. Whether you are baptized, meaning brought into the truth by Paul, by Apollos, by Cephas, being Peter, those things, they don't matter. Let's go to it. It says, who then is Paul, and who is Apollos, but ministers by whom you believed, even as the Lord gave to every man. Meaning that Paul and Apollos, they were from the Lord, man. They weren't just these outlier men that were coming on the scene and doing their own thing. They were from the Lord. They were raised up by the Lord. Let's keep reading. It says, I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. So he said we're nothing. At the end of the day, we're just men, and it's God that really matters at the end of the day. And that's the same thing for every single circumstance, man. Brother, why are you being selfish in your own thing, in your own desire? What really matters at the end of the day? Is it what you want, what you were raised on, your ideas, or is it God that matters? And that's a thing that plagues a lot of men. But let's keep reading. Let's jump down. Let's jump down to verse 20 or 21. It says, therefore let no man glory in men, for all things are yours, whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas or the world or life or death or things present or things to come, all are yours, and ye are Christ, and Christ is yours. So again, Paul, he gave them an example, and he said, look, those things don't matter. Be selfless. At the end of the day, we're just men. Think about what God wants, not what man wants. He could have easily came in and said, look, if you're not Paul, if you're not me, you're going off. I'm the one Yahweh Shah popped up on. I'm the one who received the vision. I'm the one who went through all these things and was ordained by the Most High through his son Yahweh Shah. But no, he said, look, it doesn't matter who I am. It doesn't matter who I am. Let me be selfless, and let me say, look, it doesn't matter if you came through Apollos, Cephas, being Peter, or me. What matters is that we're all from the Lord. And that's a heavy account. Because a lot of men, they can be prideful. They say, yeah, man, if you're not with, I'll use Arakan for example, man. Again, we're not saying this, but I'll use us for example to avoid confrontation or conflict. But if we were to say, hey, look, if you're not WFI, you're not in the truth. If you're not WFI, you're not with us. If you're not W5, the Lord's going to destroy you. You actually have men saying that. Camp saying that, just with different names, man. But that's not that's selfish at the end of the day. That's not selfless. What's selfless is understanding that if the Lord would see that man, if the Lord would see that camp, hey, at the end of the day, we're all of the Lord's. There's no need for division. There's no need for selfishness and not to be selfless and say, look, this is above campus, man. This is all about the Lord's ministry being magnified. But we have one account of being selfish. Let's get another one. Then we're going to roll through it. 1 Corinthians, let's go to chapter 7. There's another account, and this is all throughout Paul's accounts, what Paul is dealing with, I'll say lack of better terms, two factions, the circumcised and the uncircumcised. And there's a lot of problems, amongst the church with just those two factions. A lot of problems. And you got a lot of men of the circumcision that were overthrowing those of the uncircumcision, meaning the Gentiles that weren't circumcised. Let's get this in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. And I want to get straight to the point. In verse 18. Well, I'll start with verse 17. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 17. It says, but as Yahweh hath distributed to every man, as the Lord hath called every one, so let him walk. And so ordain I in all churches. Is any man called being circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Is any man called in uncircumcision? Let him not be uncircumcised. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but the keeping of the commandments of Yahweh. So again, we see another account of Paul commanding men to be selfless. Again, this is a problem throughout the entire scripture of men not being selfless, man. Men putting their own want and own desires over other men, and in the same case, overthrowing that man. To the point where Paul had to come out and say and play for lack of better terms, the neutral man or the peacemaker. Hey, look, none of that matters, man. If you were called into the circumcision, underneath the gospel of Peter and the apostles who were preaching to the circumcision, the Jews, continue in that, man. If you were called by the uncircumcision, through Paul, Barnabas, continue in that, man. But those things at the end of the day, they don't matter, man. But the keeping of the commandments of the Most High. When it is a problem is when those men, they were overthrowing the others. When the circumcision, particularly the circumcision, they were overthrowing the uncircumcision and causing those to go astray. That's where the problem lies in, man. When those men, instead of being selfless, and instead of giving themselves up to the mission of the church and realizing, oh, look, the Lord received them, we're all one, and their own selfish mindset, they said, look, it's my way or the highway. If y'all don't get down, y'all gonna get destroyed, man. Y'all done for. Y'all finished. When these men, they did nothing wrong, they weren't breaking the laws, they weren't breaking the commandments, and they were repentant. They were repentant Israelites that wanted to come back to keep the laws of the Most High and His heritage. And these men, they denied Him. They said, yo, man, look, it's our way or the highway. That's going off. That's not being selfless. And again, these things are prevalent today. These things are prevalent. You see these things within the so-called Israelite community. Why? Because these things are nothing new. There's no new thing underneath the sun. These same problems, they pop back up throughout the earth from time to time. Like a cycle. As Ecclesiastes 3:1, or Ecclesiastes 1 and all the way down to verse 9 roughly explains. This is a circle, or a circuit, a cycle, but these things keep coming up because they're not of old, or they're not new, they're of old. Let's go back to this. I want to finish it out. In 1 Corinthians 7, it says, circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing but the keeping of the commandments of Yahweh. I mean, that's what really matters. At the end of the day, that's what really matters. Not what you want to do, brother. Not, well, this is what I feel, and what, man, bro, I'm going through it. I can't go out and keep, I can't go out and, help the church. It's what? The keeping of the laws of the Most High. Doing what he said is required of us. That's what matters at the end of the day. Not your own thoughts. Not where you was brought up. Not all these different outliers that men try to use as an excuse. But the keeping of the commandments of the Most High. And finish this out. It says, let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. So Paul, that's another account where Paul was telling these men, you have to be selfless. And there's many other accounts of Paul telling men to be selfless, man. We'll go back to that in Romans 14. We'll get the first part. Romans chapter 14, verse 1. It says, him that is weak in the faith, receive ye, but not to doubtful disputations. For one believeth that he may eat all things. Another who is weak eateth herbs. And again, just to paint a rough picture, this is talking about the eating of foods sacrificing to idols unknowingly. Brothers did a mean video on it for a Shabbat service. You can check us out on the W5 Jersey Philly page. If brothers or sisters want a deeper breakdown into what Paul was saying, again, it's on W5 Jersey Philly. On one of the I believe, no, not the lives. On one of Shabbat services, you have to go back a few months from now, but we did me and one of the brothers want a deeper breakdown. But the rough breakdown for this is that this is talking about foods unknowingly sacrificing to idols and eating of them. In the church, there's a big problem. You have people that believe that you cannot eat any type of meat because it might be sacrificing to idols. And you have men that believe that you can eat these meats because if they were unknowingly sacrificing the idol and you ate of it, the Lord at the end of the day will give you grace upon the unknowingly eating of that meat, which is 100% correct. But these men, in their simple minds, they were overthrowing the church by doing so. And they were overthrowing different men by continuing to eat those meats and cause it to be corrupted, or cause those men that believe you couldn't to be corrupted in their own minds. So Paul, he told these men to be selfless. And we're going to read these accounts. Let's read it. It says, him that is weak in the faith receive ye, but not to doubtful dissertations. Those that were weak in the faith were those that believed that you can only eat herbs. It's going to say that. For one believeth that he may eat all things, another who is weak eateth herbs. Let him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth. So he said, look, if you eat the meat, don't despise those that don't eat it. Don't look upon those that don't eat it and say, man, you're really weak. Man, look, if it was sacrificing the idol unknowingly and we ate of it, the Lord's not going to destroy us, man. The Lord will have grace and mercy upon us. So when we find out it was sacrificing the idol, we can repent from it. We're not going to get overthrown. What the word they used, despise, slack. Don't despise a man that doesn't eat and say, man, you're weak. Where's your faith at, Ak? Stop being weak. No, you got to receive that type of man. Why? Because in the moment, he's weak in the faith. He doesn't have that understanding. And that was a big problem in the church because you always had new members coming in, which we always do too. Don't be the brother, well, a brother, and we'll have to put it in common terms because, in common terms, it'd be more like son, a brother believes son, I don't know, got some hidden pork ingredient in it, but he can't really prove it. He's like, man, if you eat that, man, the pork and the Lord's going to boom, boom, boom. And, you're kind of looking up and like, I don't see that it's made out of pork. I'm still going to eat it. He's like, no, don't eat it. Don't eat it. The Lord, Isaiah 66, the Lord's going to destroy you. Don't be the brother to sit down there and eat that in his face. Put that thing to the side and don't eat it, man. Don't eat that, brother. Be mindful, man, because you doing that can overthrow that one brother, man. Because you were too selfish to put down the damn food, man. And you see that a lot, man. Well, what do you mean it got pork in it? You can't prove it. And then they sit there and they eat it. Brother's almost tearing out his hair, saying, don't eat, trying to save you, in his mind. He might be wrong, he might be right, we don't know. But he's trying to save you, but because he might not understand the grace of the Most High at the time. If you unknowingly eat something that might have pork snuck in it or something, he might think that if you do, the Lord's gonna destroy you. You're done for. But in his mind, he's trying to save you, and you just eating in his face. You can overthrow that one brother, man. Now he's looking upon the entire ministry and even the service of the Lord and saying, they're not really about it. They're eating pork. I tried to help him, and he still ate the pork. And now you overthrow that brother. These things, they were happening back in the day. Just with food sacrifices and idols. And Paul, he spoke on it. Let's keep reading. It says, let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for God hath received him. Again, he's telling these men to be selfless. At the end of the day, it's about the Lord. It's not about you, brother. It's not always about you. It's about the Lord at the end of the day. Let's jump down. I believe I read it, but I'm going to jump down. No, I didn't read this. Jump down to verse 13. It says, let us not therefore judge one another anymore. And to you Christians, it's not saying that you can't judge. To put this in context, Paul's only saying, don't despise each other and cast each other away for something as simple as this. Something as simple as, I choose to eat herbs only, and one person on one side I choose to eat herbs only, and on the other side I choose to eat the meat, even though it might be sacrificed unto an idol. I just don't know. Don't throw yourselves at each other with something as simple as that. The Lord has received y'all both. One has the understanding that if they eat the food sacrificed unto idols unknowingly, they have mercy upon the Lord. It's not going to be an unknown idol that comes out of nowhere and takes that brother away and just rips him away into a different religion or a different somewhere else. The god Dagon comes in and kicks down the door and takes the brother up, and now he's a priest of Dagon. No, at the end of the day, you can read this in 1 Corinthians 8 and 10. At the end of the day, the fullness of the earth is of the Lord. And these men, they knew that, man. They knew that these idols were nothing but devils and demons. They knew at the end of the day, the Lord has dominion over the whole earth, and these devils and demons, they're below the Lord. But the other men, they didn't know that. They thought that these idols, they were something. So they was overthrowing those people. But let's keep reading. It says, Slucky, let us therefore not judge one another anymore. Again, not saying not to judge, but judge this rather, says it right this, that no man put a stumbling block or an occasion to fall in his brother's way. So Paul was telling them, man, you got to be a bigger man. Don't put a stumbling block or even, Slucky, I'll read it one more time. An occasion to fall. That's what I wanted. Nor an occasion to fall in your brother's way. Don't do it. Be the man that doesn't put any stumbling blocks in front of your brother. Be the man that is a bigger man. A lot of the times in this truth, you got to be the bigger man. You got to be the brother that answer calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, man. You got to be the brother that has to, that might have to deal with a brother that is, for example, getting on your nerves, man. You gotta talk to him. You gotta bring out precepts, try to calm him down, try to get his mind straight. Sometimes you gotta do that, man. Especially you brothers out older than this truth, man. I love to, I'll use this analogy. I love to, when you have a dog, an older dog that's around puppies, you can see the puppies that getting on the older dog's nerves. And the older dog, if it's a seasoned older dog that isn't temper-ridden, it's always correcting the puppy. But you can see, that it's correcting the puppy in love. And it's constantly doing it. Some of them, they'll snap and they'll bite the puppy and they'll do all, you have a seasoned dog that is always putting the puppy in check, no matter how much is annoying him. You gotta do that in this truth too, man. Literally. You might have someone that comes in they're new, they're coming around, they're just saying whatever, or saying whatever. The zealous for the truth, but they just came out the world. And you're kind of looking like, man, he talks too much, man. Why is he talking about this? And you got to correct that man. You got to correct him. And you got to build him up into a seasoned dog, man. Because if that seasoned dog isn't putting that puppy in check, that puppy's going to go unchecked. And it's going to become a very, very unruly dog, man. In the age of his life. He's going to become unruly. So the seasoned dog, they got to check that dog. Otherwise, the dog will just do what it wants to do. You got to build up the dog. It's the same with us. Not calling brothers or sisters dogs, but it's an analogy. The older had to build up the younger. It's the same thing in this truth. When I came in this truth, I was a young puppy. And I had brothers that built me up and taught me how to maneuver in this truth. And I thank the Most High for them brothers, because it's lucky. If not, I wouldn't be the brother I am today, man. I wouldn't. Just being honest and speaking. So you have to do that. A lot of men, again, they say, well, I don't want to do that. That sounds like a lot of work. What do you mean I got to do that? Oh, it's required of us, man. Let me get a quick precept. It's required of us. This is 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 2. It says, feed the flock of Yahweh, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof. And when you're an overseer and you have oversight over something, it means that you're basically guiding them. If you're the oversight of a flock, it means you're the shepherd. It means that you don't let them go astray. That's a laborer's job, man. And I don't mean laborers and you're lifting logs and you're lifting rocks. I mean that you got to watch every single sheep. And they might be going over here. They might be trying to run underneath the fence and do God knows what. If you dealt with sheep before, you know how sometimes they can get, when they're not constantly being put in check. But, it's required. It's required of the overseer, man. Those that have oversight. And Peter, in this case, is telling men to take the oversight of the flock of the Most High. Peter had oversight over men. And he accepted that rule. He didn't run away. He didn't turn his back on the oversight thereof. He took it willingly. It's going to say that. It says, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly. Meaning, again, like you shouldn't have to have 50,000 precepts read to you on why you should be helping a brother understand precepts. Helping a brother understand the Bible. You only need 5,000 precepts to tell you, and look, I think that you should really, the brother, he tells me that he's calling you and that you don't be answering. He just wants to understand the Bible a little bit better. And we're like, well, he calls during date nights, and he calls during my sleep time, and he calls during workout time, and he calls during video game time. Brother, you understand this, brother. You're going off. Be the brother that's selfless. That says, well, what about the Lord, man? The Lord put this brother in my care, man. The Lord wants me to do this. The Lord wants me to be selfless and to give up my life and to think about this brother and the steed of mine, man. And again, that's a common theme throughout the Bible. Is doing that, man. Is doing that. When the Lord said, "Do unto others as you would like done unto yourself," roughly paraphrasing, I mean that's what it is, man. Literally. When you came in the truth, I'm more than sure you had men that were taking the time out of the day to give you their own time, to give you what you needed for yourself, man. I'm sure you was asking questions, and brothers was coming out and giving it to you, man. I'm sure that you was watching countless of videos of brothers that labored hours upon day to put out those videos so you can have edification. The same thing is required of you on the other end too. Don't be the brother that gets selfish. After getting past the ball, now they don't want to pass it. Now they're selfish. Don't be that type of brother. Let's finish it out. It says, feed the flock of the Most High, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. And you have to have a ready mind when doing this. This is a dedication. It's deeper than, again, just wearing fringes and saying a couple Bible verses. And pumping your fist and saying, "Oh yeah, Kwam Yashala." It's deeper than that, man. It requires a lot of dedication. It requires a lot of love, a lot of unfeigned love, like you read about in the scripture. Love that can't be measured. And these things are required of the service of the Most High because the Lord has set up men to take part of this. Let's finish this out right here. This is going to be my last precept before we wind down. It says, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock. And you have to be an example. You got to be an example to a brother that came into the truth 2 months ago. You got to be an example to men that came into the truth around the same time you did. And you have to be an example unto those that came before you. We're constant examples, and we're constantly put on the forefront of the ministry because the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua servants, man. So we gotta be examples. Can't be the man that are just falling and doing God knows what and being selfish and profaning the ministry, man. You selfish men are profaning the ministry, man. You're profaning the ministry being selfish. It's time to be selfless and to move in a different spirit. Let's keep reading. Last verse. It says, and when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fades not away. So when we do all these things, the Lord, at the end of the day, he's going to reward us with a crown that does not fade away. Everlasting life. But with that, I'm going to close out this video, giving all honor and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Mashra Malaki Yahushua, man. Lord willing, brothers and sisters, take heed to this and will edify. And remember to be selfless in this walk with the Lord and his son Yahushua. But with that, Kwam Yashala, Shalom.